Optimism, learning realistic, hopeful thinking patterns. Yes, the power of optimism, learning realistic, hopeful thinking patterns. And here in the studio, I have Barnabas Atangongo and also Amina right here with me in the studio to tell us more about the power of optimism. We are live on Facebook, Fiila FM 89.3, and also our TikTok, Kosia Fiila or 89.3 Fiila FM. You can also join us live. Good morning, Barnabas and Amina.
Good morning.
Good morning, Fiila.
I hope you are doing well.
Very well, thank you.
By the grace, I'm also doing well.
Okay. We thank God. So let's look at optimism. What optimism is and how it's realistic optimism different from blind positivity. All right.
Okay. Good morning to our cherished listeners as they normally follow us to continue to listen to things related to mental health and related to the improvement of their well-being in general. AKB, before I begin, I think over the period, I think there was a time that we were talking about satisfaction in life and those things, and you gave a particular scenario. So I would like to begin my explanation of optimism with that particular scenario that you gave.
Okay.
And if you remember, I think we were talking about satisfaction in life, and you describe, for instance, if you have a glass of water and you have water in it, but it is half. Maybe different people will see it from different perspectives. Someone can say the glass is half empty,
full or half empty.
Or someone also say the glass is half full, depending on that situation. That is how optimism actually operates. So optimism, someone with that behavior of optimism will acknowledge that yes, it's half, but for them it is half full in their eyes. But if someone is also pessimistic, which is the opposite form of someone who is optimistic, that person is going to see that it is half empty because they are seeing it in the negative light. So the optimism is seeing or acknowledging challenges as they are. So it's not like you see the challenges but you ignore it. No, you acknowledge the challenges, and you realizing that even though I'm finding myself in challenges, I'm finding myself in trouble, there is still an opportunity for me to succeed, or there is still a way for me to find solutions or possible solutions to it. So you acknowledge the challenges, but you realize that there are still some possible solutions that you can find in them. And when we look at optimism, what it can do is that it has a way of actually affecting the life of a lot of people. So for instance, there are some people that are not happy in their life just because of the way they perceive things or the way they seem to process things that they experience within their life. And with that, you realize that sometimes there are some people that they tend to be somehow positive, and that positivity becomes a toxic form of positivity to them. So even though you can be positive, you should also know that there is a line between you being optimistic and you experiencing a toxic form of positivity, which we term it to be toxic positivity.
Okay.
So it means that despite the fact that we are saying that you should see things in a good light, it does not mean that you should discount the reality of the situation.
Okay.
If you are discounting the reality of the situation, then it means that is not optimism that you are actually practicing. So if you are experiencing optimism, some of the things that you can actually see people acknowledging could be that the person sees that, oh, for instance, this situation is difficult, but I believe I can cope. That is a good way of seeing or practicing optimism. Or someone may say, I may not control everything, but I can control my response. So for instance, people around you are messing up within your space, but you know that you cannot control their behavior. But for your response, for you to be angry, for you to be annoyed and react in a certain way that you not be proud of yourself, for that response you can control it. So that is a good way of practicing
optimism.
Yes, optimism, or what we call it realistic optimism. when we look at toxic positivity, sometimes how people present it is that, oh, they will just tell you in everything be happy. It is not possible that as an individual, in everything you are going to be happy. Okay, so for instance, if someone loses their loved one and you tell the person to be happy, in that particular instant, then there might be something wrong with you telling the person to be happy. It is not.
It's
not
like
possible.
you are insensitive.
That is it. So you have to acknowledge the challenge, but also realize that even though within the challenge there is an opportunity for you to put things together, for you to mend things together and still continue with life. But if you are just saying in everything be happy, that is not real. And also we normally hear people, oh, ignore that feelings. Normally sometimes when we hear some of these things, sometimes things happen and you talk to someone about them, person, oh, forget about this person. And normally the feeling is that if I was able to just forget about it like that, or prevent it or like that, then I wouldn't even come to talk to you about
At all.
So the important thing is that you acknowledge that there is that problem. Then you try to find ways to move over it. So if you are someone that's in that instance, anything that happens to you, instead of you trying to find a solution, acknowledge it, you are trying to ignore your feelings, you are trying to ignore the problem, it means that you are practicing what we call toxic positivity.
Okay.
And that is not a good form of positivity that we want you to practice. We want you to be optimistic. And optimistic here means that identifying the challenge, recognizing that there is trouble, and also acknowledging that there is room or there is space for you to
improve.
Actually improve. So we can look at it from this angle. So the main thing is that if you want to be optimistic, which we are encouraging, you identify the challenge, you are acknowledge that there is a problem, but you still make room that there is an avenue for you to improve, there is an avenue for solutions to be professed. And in this instance, when we do this, it has a way of benefiting us in various angles. As we go on, we will talk about some of these things.
Okay.
So optimism is key. Just acknowledge the issue and also realize that there is room for you to improve, or there is room for solutions for that particular problem.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Barnabas, for explaining into details what optimism is and how realistic optimism is different from the blind positivity. Now coming to Amina, how do negative thinking patterns affect our mental health, relationships, and also our daily lives?
Thank you so much, AKB. I would like to take the opportunity to say a very good morning to our dear listeners and viewers, both on Facebook and TikTok. We are so excited to join you every Tuesday morning and to share with you our mental health tips. AKB, this question, before I come to it, I just want to give an example to buttress what Barnabas said.
Okay.
Sometimes within marriages, you see the couple, one might have a complaint, and will send a complaint to another person to help them solve the situation, and then you see the person tell either, so let's say maybe it's the woman that sent the complaint, and the person says, okay, for this your complaint, you don't say this one, keep this one and let's put it this way. Though you are giving the person the opportunity to voice out, but the actual situation you are supposed to acknowledge, you may not be acknowledging that, and that really wouldn't make the person be able to feel that the situation has been solved. So
Okay.
just as we are saying, being optimistic is the ability to know that whatever challenge you are in has a way out of it. But for you to have the way out, first acknowledge the situation, the difficulty, and don't try to polish it in a smart way, because normally when that happens, it doesn't help in the process. So negative thinking patterns actually affect mental health as well as relationship and then our daily lives. According to from psychology, we've come to learn that our thoughts have a way of influencing our emotions.
Okay.
they also have a way of influencing our behavior as well as our confidence and our relationship. Now, how does this happen? When we repeatedly think about negativity, our brain becomes adapted to that, and will now be expecting danger even when there is no danger.
None.
It will now begin to expect rejection even when there is rejection or failure. Yes. So there is this theory, we call it cognitive behavioral therapy. It's about the brain and how our thoughts influence our actions and then our feelings. And then with this same teaching, it shows that our thoughts affect how we feel, and then our feelings also affect how we behave, and then the way we behave will now come to reinforce the thoughts that we were having. So for example, a young, beautiful and vibrant lady who is now up and wanting to enter into a relationship, but with the thoughts that nobody will like her. That thinking alone will make her have some feeling like sadness or anxiety, even if she's being approached by a man. And because of that sadness and anxiety she's feeling, she's likely to start avoiding situations that will even bring her before the men that she would wish to go into the relationship with. And once you are avoiding, that is the action, your thought has led to a feeling. The feeling is also leading you into taking a certain action. And that action is going to lead you into something like withdrawing from public gatherings, among other things. And now, once you are avoiding people, you are going to be lonely. And when you are lonely, it will come to buttress the fact that nobody likes you. Because if people like you, why will you be lonely? So this kind of thinking pattern affects people. And sometimes we don't only say it comes from one side, like it's just the thoughts that will affect the feeling, and the feeling will come to affect the behavior. It can also span from other areas. It can be the feeling that will make you think some way and will also make you react in another way. Let's say another example, you are moving, you meet someone by the roadside, someone you are familiar with, but the way you expected the person to accept you, the person didn't approach you with that level of excitement. So you get a feeling that this person is like, is annoyed with me. So that feeling you had now makes you think that there is something, or the person has a problem with me. Okay, so for that reason, the way she has approached me, I'm also not going to show that level of excitement when I see her. So your feeling has made you thought some way, and it's making you act in a way that you actually get closer to the person. You also not show that level of excitement that you were supposed to have shown. So there is that linkage between our thoughts, our feelings, and then our behaviors or our actions. And there are some common harmful thinking patterns that we normally engage in without necessarily knowing this is what we are doing. For example, there is this thinking pattern we call catastrophizing. Turning something small into so huge. You just think of the worst case scenario as a result of something small. For example, you wake up in the morning, you are preparing to go to the workplace. You prepare your coffee, whether it's lip tea or tea or milk or whatever, and then you get a spill in your dress as a result of the fact that maybe you are rushing. Immediately you conclude today is going to be the worst day. Or you are looking for a key you've left on at a particular place, you've forgotten, and because you are in a hurry, you take it. Once I'm not able to locate my key at this moment, the whole day is going to be ruined. And then you see people now even raking in other issues that had nothing to do with the situation. So people tend to catastrophize things even if they are not supposed to do, and this affects their mental health and then their daily life activities. Again, there is this pattern also called overgeneralization. One bad event, AKB, becomes a lifelong conclusion for people. So normally I use relationship because a lot of us listeners and viewers might have or are experiencing that. You might have dated, let's say a lady, you've dated two fair colored guys, and the relationship didn't go well. And based on the fact that those two relationships didn't go well,
I wish someone was listening.
Are you sure it's not you?
Okay, then I'll change it to that. AKB. Since I said fair, someone is maybe dark would do. So whether it's fair or it's dark, based on the two, you now say, as for fair colored people, I will never allow them in my life again. And people even go to the extent that they now want to preach others against it. That my daughter, I'll not let her get close to a fair colored man, or if it's a man, I'll not also let anybody get close to a fair colored woman. But if we are going to look at the statistics, AKB, even if we take Tamale and we take Sanago out of Tamale, that particular municipality, if two fair colored guys within that municipality might have had a relationship with you that didn't go well, can you actually generalize that all men, all fair colored men? So that is what we are talking about. Or again, we have this thing called mental filtering. People tend to ignore the positives that are happening in their lives and focus only on one or two negatives. And we are saying this because it's not like people will sit intentionally and say, I want to do that. That's why we are saying there are patterns of thinking that we are drawing people's attention to, so that if you find yourself in these areas, you try to know that, oh, maybe this is what I shouldn't be doing. So don't filter the negatives and champion them as against the positives that are also happening in your life. There was a time we had an example here about a student who came second and was so down as against people who were 17th and 18th in the class. Or someone might even score 80% in an exam but will not even look at that. The 20% loss is where the pain is. So with negative thinking patterns, we can look at it like you wearing a dark sunglasses again indoors. The sunglasses that is already going to make things look dark, and now you are indoors making things even look darker. So let's understand that it is not that the things are darker, but it's because of what you are wearing and you are looking that is making it look darker in one way or the other. And this kind of negative thinkings or patterns normally affect our relationship because they make us feel pessimistic. And once we have pessimistic feelings, our communication in relationship is going to be affected. And when we say relationship, it's not only about romantic relationship. It can be boss and employee relationship, mother and child, friends. There are so many kinds of relationships. So pessimistic feelings or thinking can affect communication. It can affect trust, emotional intimacy, even your ability to solve problems will be hampered. And research has shown that when we engage in negative thinking patterns, we are strongly there is a link between that and anxiety disorders, depression, low self-esteem, and then emotional burnout. So AKB, if we would want to have positive relationships, enjoy our daily lives, have a sound mental health, these are some of the negative thinking patterns that we should try to see if we can spot them, and moving forward we'll talk about how we can address them. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Amina, for that. So talking about the power of optimism, this optimism thing that we're talking about, can it be learned, or are some people naturally just more hopeful than others?
Okay, so with optimism, let me start from where, for instance, previously we believe that, oh, by the time you get to 25, your brain is matured, nothing new will actually be put in there. Now it has been refuted, and due to that, we know that some of these things are patterns that can be learned over the period. And looking at individuals as we have ourselves, naturally you can realize that sometimes you can even have a sister. For your sister, most of the time, if something happens in the house, it seems she's mostly negative about it. And even if there is some good aspect about it, this person does not really see it. It tries to tell us that people have personalities, people have temperaments that sometimes are kind of prone them to be having that tendency to be more optimistic than other people. So there are people that, because of their personality, they are more optimistic than other people. Sometimes too, it's about the upbringing. Upbringing affects a lot of things. So if you are in a home that, for instance, they say you can't wash it, your mouth feel very useless and other things, that also have a way of also influencing you. For instance, there are certain homes that they can tell a child you are useless, you amount to nothing. When you consistently say that we are individuals, it gets down to the person's mind that, oh, me, I'm even useless, so there is nothing that I can do in my life. And that can lead to a pattern that a person will develop that will be related to some form of being very pessimistic, and this person will have difficulty expressing optimistic view. With that said, looking at the ways through which people can learn to be very optimistic, we can talk about neuroplasticity. And so neuroplastic density, so neuroplasticity. So it's just relating to the fact that now we've identified that our mind is kind of malleable, and there are things that if you continue to learn, it becomes a repeated pattern, and your mind is able to adapt and understand those patterns. So that is what it means. So it means that it doesn't matter whether you're an aged person, whether you're a child, whether you're a teenager. If you make up your mind that you want to learn something and be good at it, you can still improve upon it. Sometimes you realize that people normally say, oh, if you are grown, it's difficult to learn a language. It's because we are lazy most of the time. Yes, that is why we are not able to learn it. It's not because your tongue is matured or whatever that it is. It's just because we are lazy. We don't put in the work because it's difficult for us. So if you put in the work, you'll be able to adapt and learn those kind of things. So there is that evidence naturally that within our brain there is accommodation for us to learn some of these things. So in that same way, if you want to be optimistic, you can learn to be optimistic by the strategies that we are going to talk about as time goes on. Then another thing is that people learn to be optimistic, as I said, from environment. It can be from their childhood experiences. So there are things that you expose your child to. Be someone that encourages your children to learn, your children to improve. And when they make mistakes, let them understand that, oh, it is this mistake that you made. So we need to correct it in this particular way. Let's not just beat them for beating sake because we are angry. Let's not beat them for beating sake. We understand that sometimes
you beat them, let them know.
Yes, let them know and understand that this is the reason why I'm beating you, so that the person knows and will not do that again. I think in primary school, one teacher did that to us, and I hated that teacher until I grew up. It was break over. They rang the bell. Charlie, we were playing football. We were busy playing our football. This man spotted us, the way he lashed us that day, and he told us that it was because they rang the bell and we were still on the field. And good for us, he brought toffee. He gave us toffee again. We ate the toffee and still were annoyed with him until we grew up and realized that no, this man was actually showing us the right thing to be done. So when you do that, it kind of leave a footprint in the person's mind that even though I made that mistake, they corrected me this way. I understood that it is this particular thing that made me receive that punishment, and I'll be able to move on. And let's also encourage our children. Certain demeaning words that we say to our children. For instance, people let their children feel that they are very foolish, they cannot achieve anything in life. Sometimes, it's not good. But I know that some of us, we all do it. For instance, my siblings like this. If I wanted to pain them, I speak P, so that Edogu call Mumu. And I insult them very well. But we know that it's not that good. So we can refrain from some of these things and let people.
Sometimes you can't battle.
You see, AKB, once you do that, the issue is you being able to send the message. It's not about the action you've taken that is. Yes, you know you couldn't. Maybe you should have held back the insults. But after the insults, actually, has your message been sent? Because if the message has been sent, the child will not even bother about the insult that has come. He would have learned. That's how come children, when you discipline them, you see quickly within something, as if it's not this child you just, he will come back to you. Yeah. So if you let them get to know, I said all these things because of ABC. Sometimes they don't even take it. But if they don't know, it's like all the time. As for you, you just don't see anything good in me.
Yeah.
It's just insults no matter what I do. Then your messages will not go down.
Good. So Madam Amina has just polished it for me. So that is it. We know that sometimes it's difficult to really hold ourselves, but in doing that, you have to let the person understand that this is the reason why you actually did that. And the next thing that I'll talk about is that when we look at optimism, sometimes one particular factor that defeats the act of optimism is what we call learned helplessness. So we normally see this in people who are normally experiencing depression. It happens where they go through a situation and it makes them feel very powerless. So one trouble comes and unfortunately they were not able to solve it. Another trouble comes. Sometimes you really look at this word and sometimes you feel that the word is actually unfair. But unfortunately, at that particular instance, you are supposed to deal with it. People are exposed to series of problems upon problems and they are not able to do anything about it. So when it occurs continuously like that, and these individuals are not able to do anything about the situation, they begin to feel that they are helpless. So there is nothing that they can do in life. But that is not true in that instance. Sometimes it's because the threshold of the first incident happened. It has actually paralyze the person mentally to the extent that you didn't want to take action to it. Then another one comes, then it compounds, and we begin to feel that we do not have any power or control over some of these things. So when it occurs like that, there's that sense that, oh, I'm helpless. And this is something that is being learned because of the continuous or series of issues that a person has experienced. So learned helplessness is something that normally defeats the act of optimism. But it is something that fortunately psychologists or therapists can help you to overcome in that process. And to talk about this, other ways that people can also learn optimism is also through some form of practical encouragement. So optimism can grow. If you look at how optimism progresses, it is something that can grow. And I know someone that calls me Mr. Optimistic Man.
That's nice.
Because normally when I'm talking with her and there's any issue, then sometimes she kind of imagine what I'm going to say. So the moment I open my mouth to talk, she say, "Oh, you wait, let me tell you what you're going to say." So she kind of predict some of the things that I'm going to say. And sometimes it's so clear that the issues happen. Even though it is a bad issue, there is some positive aspect of it. As I may not talk about filtering, we leave the positive aspect of it and we are only talking about the negative aspect of it. Yeah. So my duty normally is to also let you know the positive aspect of it. And normally when that comes in, you realize that the person's mood is lit in that particular instance. So optimism is something that we can nurture to grow. And this can come through the positive habits that we are going to be practicing. And sometimes it has to come through emotional support. So for instance, you have to get parents that are going to support you emotionally. If things are going tough for the child, how you are going to encourage the child to come back onto their feet. Sometimes too, people develop optimism through their faith. For instance, a lot of people dwell on the Bible. But as I said, we don't want it to lead to toxic positivity. You ignoring the actual problems and just saying that in all things, everything is just going to be better. Okay, so you acknowledge the challenges, but you realize that there are solutions that can be provided for those things. But spirituality is one way that people learn to be optimistic. And also, when it comes to therapy, people also learn to be optimistic through therapy. And there's this thing that I think is also good that people can also do for themselves to help them learn to to become very optimistic. It's what we call a self-talk. So sometimes you see some people working by themselves, then they are talking to themselves. I think I've seen a couple of women, sometimes even in the market, they are standing there, they are checking their money themselves, talking and doing all those mathematics by themselves alone. That is self-talk. So instead of you doing the mathematics and doing your calculation about how you are going to manage and balance your food and other things, you can do it in a way of improving yourself. So you acknowledge the difficulties in your life, and you try to identify the positive aspect of it, and try to also find the solutions that you can provide for those kind of things. So when you talk about your own challenges, your own problems, or your own solutions that you can provide for those problems, it is also a way that you can also help yourself to actually learn and nurture your optimism. And when you do this, it's a way of actually improving you becoming very optimistic.
Okay, thank you so much. So you can learn to be optimistic. If you are not optimistic, it can be learned. So let's look at some common unhealthy thought patterns that people should watch out for. Amina.
Thank you so much, AKB. And these are the juicy parts that we are entering. But before I go in again, I want to just add a bit to the learned helplessness principle Mr. Barnabas touched on.
Okay.
I see a lot of that happening in our marriages and also in our raising of our children. Why? So if maybe between couples, you see consistently, if one complains and it's like the complaints fall off, he or she is not seeing the other party trying to adjust or even do something to show that the complaints you are giving me I've taken notes of, and I would like to work, or I'll try and work on them.
Okay.
See, when I give the first, I give the second, a lot of people will then relax. No, this person, even if I say he's not going to change or she's not going to change, she's like that. And so later on, you see, even other serious issues will happen the person is supposed to talk about and will not want to talk about, will not want to draw the other person's attention to. And this is also an example of the learned helplessness we're talking about. Or you have a child, the child consistently, when you talk to, he or she doesn't heed to the advice that you've been given. You see a parent who just conclude, after this child is stubborn, whatever you tell him or her, she's not going to adhere to, and so now I'm tired, I'm not going to do anything about it again. It's also an aspect of learned helplessness. Because of the situations, the series of events that you've been through, you now conclude and want to find a way out of it. Though what we are trying to say this morning is, yes, events happen, let's acknowledge the events that have happened, and then let's have hope and then find solutions to them. Now, there are some common unhealthy thought patterns that we all should watch out for, because as we are here, it doesn't mean we are also immune to some of these things, but when we learn them, it also helps us. That's why we are sharing with our listeners and our viewers. One of them is the black and white thinking. Yes. There is this thinking like black and white. What it simply means is that people seeing life only in the extreme. So it's either good or it's bad. We don't see things in between. So when life happens or things happen, because we are only looking at the extreme, we tend to think that everything is hopeless. So it is either I passed the exam or I failed. But there is nothing like, oh, okay, I tried. There is that word is not in the person's dictionary. Or it's either I'm perfect or I'm useless. So the thinking is always in the extreme. Another one is mind reading. You assume you know what the other person is thinking.
Okay.
So you don't even allow the pair, or you don't cross-check whatever information you've gotten with the other person to confirm or refute. You just assume that, oh, over the period, this is, so I just conclude that this is what this person is thinking.
Yeah.
So, example, they didn't greet me properly, and then this thing is because they don't like me. Just read into it. Okay, another one is fortune telling, predicting negative outcomes without evidence again.
Wow.
So here you see somebody, I already know this interview will go bad. Even before going, you've already drawn your conclusion again.
Yeah.
Before even venturing. And this way, when you go and it fails, it comes to reinforce what you were already thinking.
Yeah.
Then the last one I'd like to share is what we call labeling, defining yourself by your mistake or one mistake. You did something, it didn't go well, and then you just label yourself. One, I'm either stupid, or because I failed the exam, I'm useless. And this thing, we normally say it ends. We are so hard on ourselves that you see, AKB in 3 days say, I know I didn't. And you see, our elders say that it's not for a joke. They say that because of what you eat. I am thinking that literally we say, if you eat pepper and so what is it? But it's because they know the power that words carry.
Yeah.
What you tell yourself, the brain accepts that. It's like a command to it, and it begins to execute. And so don't label yourself the way you wouldn't want to see yourself. So the way you want to see yourself, use such words. If something doesn't go well, okay, the way I wanted it didn't go that way. Let me see. That's what we are talking about. Learning to be hopeful and finding solutions to the challenge by acknowledging it. So AKB, in short, I would say distorted thinking is like a cracked mirror. It doesn't reflect the reality accurately. So these negative thinking patterns, they actually have consequences like anxiety, hopelessness, insecurity, anger. It sometimes even make people feel ashamed after the situation, and some also engage in withdrawals. So let's try to be able to identify or notice when we are engaged in some of these negative thinking patterns that I've made mention of again.
Okay, so the negative thinking pattern can be toxic to oneself. Thanks so much. So Barnabas, take us through the practical strategies that can help people develop more hopeful and realistic thinking.
Okay, so there are proven strategies that we can all adapt to actually help us to become more optimistic and ignore or try to prevent ourselves from being experiencing toxic positivity. So the first thing that I will mention is to challenge your negative thoughts.
Okay.
Back in SHS, there was this lady in my class. We did 4 years. So our first year we did general courses. Then you write exams. Then looking at the exams, they will now apportion a class to you. But of course, we chose some programs before they apportioned the class. And whether fortunately or unfortunately for us, there was this girl that also came to the science class. She actually did well. That's why they pushed her there. And I think our first lesson was on physics.
Okay.
And this man came with something that they call dimensional analysis, some calculation B. Come on.
He came to scare the lady.
When that lesson was over, some people took their decks and went to different classes.
I'm gone, long gone.
So this girl was one of them. And unfortunately for her, one of our chemistry teachers taught her in her previous class.
Okay.
So the man saw the potential in the girl
and brought her back.
Yes. So the man dragged the girl back to the science class. This girl cried, went back to the house, called her dad to come and talk to the teacher to send her back to where she wants. The father came. The teacher succeeded in convincing the father and the father said she should sit in the class. And she kept on saying that she doesn't think that she can make it at that particular period. So for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, she was crying. But it got to a point, now she stopped crying and now she started taking things serious to learn. And fortunately for her, when we finished that exams that term, the first 5, this girl was part of the first 5.
Wow.
So we're asking ourselves, you said you cannot do it. Now you are part of the first 5 in that particular instance. So you realize that in the beginning there are negative thoughts that people normally have. But when you begin to challenge your negative thoughts, you begin to find solutions to it. That is how optimism also operates.
You know, this your story also reminds me in school and when Form 5, we didn't go to
you are the 6th form people, like.
Yes. So in Form 5, I was in the arts class.
Okay.
And you know how we hate mathematics. You know, arts class for us and maths, it's lie. And then we got to Form 5, and then we got one master who came. He was an art maths master. And he came, and then he really spoke to us.
Okay.
And then made us understand that, look, maths was not difficult. It is the easiest subject that you can pass.
Okay.
And he just diffused our mind from the fact that it is very difficult. For me, I just, even as at Form 5 when I entered, I said, me, if there's a mark more than 9, if there's 10, 11, I'll get 10 or 11, not even 9 in maths. I had made my mind that, look, the thing is difficult, so me, I can't. So I just closed my mind. And what the master came, the first day he stepped into the class, he disabused our minds and then picked it. I don't know whether it was intentional or because he disabused our minds, we now opened our minds to the fact that we can do it.
Sure.
He picked the first topic and we understood it. I said, that's how much no any days. And look, it changed
your perspective,
our whole perception about the. And that year, the arts class, we did very well in maths. We did very well in maths. So sometimes I say that the masters to the I factor.
Yeah.
The I factor.
So that's the environment.
Yeah.
So that's the environment. So if you now got someone that provided a supportive environment for you to challenge that negative thought that you had, and that is how optimism is. So from then you realize that you even develop some serious likeness to math that you were not even having previously. And as you said, related to the masters, some masters already or no person at the end of the day.
It's easier to put fear in people than to mentor them to come up.
That is it.
Because that's why you need a lot of time. Fear, it just takes a few time and people are scared. So if you're able to challenge those negative thoughts, we realize that it has a way of actually improving our life, and we begin to practice more optimism. So in challenging our negative thoughts, these are some of the things that we can ask. So when you realize that you are beginning to think about negative things, some of the questions that you can ask is that, is this thought that I'm having fully true? What are the evidence that supports this thought that I'm having? There are a lot of people that they believe in certain things. They feel like, oh, something bad is going to happen to me. But you ask the person, what are you standing on to say this bad thing is going to happen to you? None. Then what is the essence of you having it or even holding it? Okay, then you can also ask yourself, am I assuming the worst? And that is what a lot of people do. They assume that it's just the worst that is going to happen. So the more you ask yourself whether you are having evidence against this thought that you are having, whether you are assuming the worst, whether the thought you are having is actually true, what it does is that it probes you to actually reflect over the thought that you are having. And the more you reflect over it, and your mind realizes that it's just a negative thought, it begins to vanish.
Okay.
Because after you ask yourself, oh, what are the evidence that I have supporting this? You realize that there's no evidence. So if there's no evidence, then why am I even worrying myself about this? It begins to vanish. So that is how it is. So you have to challenge the negative thought. Then the next strategy is that we can practice what we call reframing. Other people have strategy related to this that they normally talk about pause, rethink. So reframing is also when something happens, how do you restructure it to suit what will be good for you? So for example, people can say this problem destroyed me. But in other way around, we can look at it from this angle and say this challenge is teaching me resilience. So instead of this problem destroyed me, it's a challenge and it has taught you to live your life or to be more resilient in life. It's just like when mistakes come, people just see the mistake and they say, oh, I cannot go on again, I cannot do anything again. But for some people, they realize that, oh, even though this mistake came, I was able to identify that if I do this, it is going to land me in this. So now I'm not going to do that again, but I'm going to do something else that can progress me or that can project me to a much higher level. So that is how we should also look at some of these things. The way that you frame things that happen to you also has an important way of improving your optimism. And if you want to actually practice good optimism, then it means that you have to be able to reframe the issues that happen to you strategically. So instead of you putting it in the negative light, we put it in a positive light in that regard. Then the next thing is practicing gratitudeness. And with that, it is something simple. This one, you don't need anything. You just wake up in the morning, ask yourself maybe 3 things that you are grateful for, maybe 2 things that you are grateful for. Just do that every day, every morning. If you just wake up on your bed, for some people they pray before getting out from their bed. So whichever way, you ask yourself 3 things that you are grateful for in that particular instance. I've encountered someone that I remember I asked the person what things is the person grateful for that morning. The person was looking at me, I don't know anything. No.
I don't know.
At that particular day. So sometimes people that experience depression and are going through a lot of anxiety, sometimes they have difficulty understanding some of identifying some of these things. And I'm not talking about filtering. So you realize that most of those people, they normally project and talk about the negative things instead of the positive things. So when the person is in that state, the likelihood that they will tell you that they have nothing to be grateful for is high. So in that instance, you have to probe the person as a therapist to let a person come to the realization that, oh, even though you are saying there's nothing, for instance, maybe previously she wasn't able to wake up to go out and do to go about her duties, but now she was able to wake up. She was even able to come to the hospital. Previously she was not having those strength. Then whilst you continue to probe around her life or the individual's life, the person begins to identify that, oh, I should be grateful for this. I should be grateful for this. I was able to wake up. I was able to go about my duties. I was able to mingle with people. Then the person will be able to identify some of these things themselves. So in simple terms, when we wake up every day, let's ask ourselves 3 things, 2 things that we are grateful for. And the more we practice it, the more it helps us to become more optimistic. Then we can also talk about a healthy social environment. And this is actually very key to every individual, because we are actually made from the environment that we are being exposed to. So for instance, there is that analogy in psychology where we talk about nature and nurture. So there are some people that believe that we are made from the environment that we have ourselves. So if they give birth to you, it's the environment that will mold you. And there's that principle that people also believe that, oh, our behavior and everything is within us and nothing can be done about it. For me, I combine the two. I'm not at both ends. So I believe that there are some behaviors that naturally we have, but our environment can also modify us. So if you have a very good environment where it's very supportive, where people are very caring and they are able to help you through the difficulties that you go through, they're able to provide you with some emotional support, friendship and other things. This is an environment that can help you to become more optimistic. So you are even working with a friend, that friend normally tries to help you identify the good side of things while still acknowledging that there are issues that you can be able to solve. As time goes on, you continue to work with this person, you realize that you continue to adapt some of these traits, and you also begin to become very optimistic in that instance. So our environment, our social relation is also a strategy that we can adapt. So if you are someone that have difficulty seeing the good side of life, try to associate yourself with people that are able to identify the good aspect of life, and you can adapt some of those strategies from them. Then the next thing is that we can also focus on small wins. Amina talked about all or nothing thinking, which is the black and white thinking that people have. And for some people, even if it is not massive as they want it, it is not a win. No, we have to practice or inculcate the strategy of practicing small wins. So the little win that you are going to get, you practice it. So for instance, we talk to our patient about any day that you wake up, especially maybe patients in the ward, any little improvement that you see in yourself, try to talk to someone about it. If it's a relative, try to talk to the relative about it. It is a way of trying to let a person identify any small win that they are experiencing within themselves, any small improvement. And once you talk about that small improvement, there is that evidence that the bigger ones have a more likelihood or a more tendency to actually follow. So we have to practice the aspect of we trying to normally appreciate smaller wins that we have. So if you are someone that, for instance, you want to become a professor in future, you don't just become a professor and celebrate. You have to start from somewhere. So right from SHS, from university, doing your masters, and now doing your PhD. If you don't appreciate all those things, all those milestones on your way, when you even achieve that professorship, you might not even see the relevance of it. So you have to acknowledge the small goals, the small wins on your way. And as you progress, you realize that you attain the bigger thing, then it becomes much valuable to you because you acknowledge the little things that you experience in your way. So just as we talk about relationship, whether it is marriage, it is a friendship relationship, it is a work relationship that you have going on, any good thing that you experience within the relationship, try to celebrate it. So celebrate it and let the people involved know that, oh, you even acknowledge this little win. Once you are doing that, it also has a way of also motivating the people to continue doing the things that they are doing that you are celebrating, so that they continue with that angle. Instead of us, mostly it is only the argument that we amplify and amplify. Let's try to also celebrate these smaller things that we see in our life. And once we continue to do this and practice some of these things, we will be very optimistic and we will be able to live a much satisfying life, and our well-being will improve again.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's celebrate small or little wins. Now, before we end, now you take this one. How then can families, schools, workshops, or workplaces or communities help nurture optimism and emotional resilience?
Thank you so much, AKB. Optimism is not built only individually. So from the social angle, he made mention of, we come to learn that yes, as an individual you can be optimistic, but if the environment you find yourself doesn't help, usually it doesn't go far.
Okay.
So for the family, for example, for it to be able to nurture people who are optimistic, let's encourage emotional expression. Even if it's your child you see is throwing tantrums, ask the child, what are you feeling? You tell him, I'm angry. Okay, you are angry. It means the child has been able to label the emotion. What is now making you angry? Let us child, if he or she is going to be able to tell you what has made him or her angry, and then how would you help the child? You then help. But immediately you find a child throwing tantrum, you now go and lift the child up and give the child sound beatings. You are not helping the child more, one, to be able to express him or herself. That is how come we shut people down by saying Bema and Su. Or when there is an issue, they say, oh, keep this. It's not everything you should talk about. And then you see people keeping things within them. They are unable to express them. There is this analogy they gave me when I was when I got married, or at the early stages of the frog and the heating water. Like a pot is put on fire, and then the fire was very low, so the water was nice and the frog was enjoying itself with the water. As the water started heating gradually, they was like, oh, this is still normal. I think the water's temperature is now better than it used to be. It kept enjoying itself in the water. It got to a state that now the water started boiling without it knowing. Now you can't jump out because it's already so sometimes when we have things to express, let's express them as early as possible so it doesn't get us to the ends that we don't want. Reassurance also helps in the family environment to nurture optimism, as well as constructive correction. I will correct you, but it should be constructive. It shouldn't always be that yours is just nagging. That's we rather refer to it as nagging than even correction. And then let's support harmful statements. You will never succeed. The one of us has made mention of so many of them. Will not go back. This mistake, it does not define you. If something happens, the helpful statement is this doesn't define you, but not that I will never succeed as a result of what has happened. In our school environment, let's try to encourage or efforts or praise efforts that our pupils or our learners put in. Not just that, the heads can also praise the efforts of their staff, and the staff can also praise the efforts of the head. So once there is that atmosphere that when I do the right thing, I get encouragement and praise, and that same way will give either the one a bit above the other the guts to also be able to correct when there is something you feel is not going right. But if it's always about not right, then people don't feel heard or seen in such an environment. Let's also try to normalize mistakes. Mistakes, I always say, are not bad. There is just one way that is teaching you what you didn't go the way you wanted. So how again can you do it the next time? By avoiding the way you did that it didn't work and finding a better way of doing it next time. And then the last I will touch on before I end is us cultivating the growth mindset. Once you understand that nothing is fixed, like Mr. Barnabas gave an example of you even learning a language at your old age. Everything, the brain, we've come to learn that is malleable. You can do whatever you want irrespective of time and age. So let's cultivate the habit that there is room for us to be able to go around our issues, our challenges, because those ones, they will come. We can't tell which one will hit us the next minute, but once they hit us, our ability to be optimistic, be able to acknowledge the difficulty, have the hope that it will get better, and then finding solutions to them are what will help us.
Have the hope it will get better, and also finding solutions, not just having the hope and then sitting down crossing your legs. If you cross the legs, the solution will not come. Exactly. Thank you so much to you, Amina and Barnabas, for taking us through the power of optimism. Very, very, very important. Ebimo pessimism no dear yana.
It's over the roof.
Seriously. So thank you guys so much for taking us through, and the fact that we can learn to be optimistic. So let me pick your final words before we go, Amina.
Okay, thank you so much. I say optimism is not denying pain, and it's not just about denying pain, and it's also not surrendering to the pain, but the quiet decision to believing in the growth and your chance to come out of whatever situation you find yourself. And so let's all try to do that, and so we can enjoy our lives as much. KB, I'd like to take the opportunity to say a very good morning to my supervisors, both at TTH and UDS, and also say a very good morning to my mom and sisters and to my lovely family. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amina Barnabas.
Okay. What I would say is that when we look at optimism, the bottom line is that we've also identified that they can be learned. So if you are someone that is struggling or having difficulty to become optimistic or see the better aspect of life, or to even see that there is even light at the end of the tunnel, as politicians normally use it, you can normally approach us, the mental health professionals. We are always around. You can normally come around, and if you're having those difficulties, we will help you to be able to deal with some of these things. I would like to end here and say good morning to my in charge, Mama Yvonne, back at West Hospital. I think she's on leave now, and my other colleagues at the office. I think Zudin followed us this morning. So Mr. Zudin Alasan, good morning to you as well, and good morning to Major Adumakun, wherever he is. He has gone back to his bunker. The
we will smoke him out.
The cobras, when it's raining, they don't know where they have to stay, so they go and hide small and they come out small. So that's one of it. And also very good thank you to Fiila FM for always giving us the opportunity to come here to educate the people of Tamale and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So that has been Barnabas at Gongo, West Hospital, and also Amina Abubakar from TTH Psychology Unit. Thanks to Kumsin Matthew, and to you out there who did the listening, and to those who watched us, be it live on Facebook or on TikTok. We say we are so much grateful to you. Catch us same time next week as we bring you another important and exciting topic on our mental health show. My name is Akusia Kwatma Boache. You can call me AKB. Quickly, we go into the nation's capital to join the discussion segment. It is by Kind Katsi, DBS Industries. Stay blessed.
Yes. Na mpeno focus say 101